My daughter thought her money was saving me from starvation. She didn't know her husband was the one letting me slowly die. My name is Eleanor Vance, and I live in a quiet, drafty apartment on the outskirts of Chicago. At 72, you learn to make yourself small. You learn to eat less, turn the heating down until you can see your breath, and convince yourself that loneliness is just peace and quiet. But I wasn't always this invisible. I used to be a librarian, surrounded by stories and noise and life. I raised my daughter, Sarah, on my own after my husband passed. Sarah is my pride, a brilliant architect who now lives in New York, commanding skylines and building dreams. She is successful, busy, and far away. It was a Tuesday in November when the truth began to unravel, though I didn't know it yet. My son-in-law, Mark, came to visit. Mark is charming, the kind of man who remembers your birthday and brings flowers that are just starting to wilt. He sat at my small kitchen table, the one with the wobbling leg, and sighed heavily. "Eleanor," he said, his voice dripping with synthetic concern, "Sarah asked me to check on you. She worries, you know. She sends that allowance every month, but you still look tired. Are you managing the $4,000, okay?" I froze. My teacup rattled against the saucer. "4,000?" I whispered. "Mark, you know I only get the food hampers you bring and occasionally $100 for electricity." Mark's face didn't change. It was a mask of practiced confusion. "Eleanor, don't joke. Sarah transfers the money to the account I set up for you. I bring you the cash and the groceries every month. Maybe your memory is getting a bit foggy. Foggy." That word was a weapon. It was designed to make me doubt my own mind. But I remembered. I remembered skipping meals so I could afford my heart medication. I remembered the cold nights. I looked at Mark, really looked at him, and saw a flicker of panic behind his eyes. "Yes," I lied, my voice trembling not from age, but from a sudden, cold fury. "Maybe I am forgetting things. Thank you, Mark." As soon as he left, the frail old woman act dropped. I put on my coat and walked 6 blocks to the public library where I used to work. I needed a computer, and I needed silence. I didn't call Sarah immediately. I knew if I called her without proof, Mark would spin it. He would say I was senile, that I was losing my grip. He would protect himself, and Sarah, blindingly in love, might believe him. I called the bank first. I pretended to be confused, an old lady who lost her statement. The teller was kind. She told me there was indeed a joint account in my name and Mark's name, opened 3 years ago. "And the balance?" I asked, holding my breath. $4.50, she said. "But there are regular withdrawals, large ones, usually at casinos and luxury car dealerships." The world tilted on its axis. 3 years. For 3 years, my daughter had been working herself into the ground to support me, sending money she thought was keeping me safe, warm, and fed. And for 3 years, Mark had intercepted it, feeding me scraps while he gambled away my dignity. I didn't go home. I went to the hardware store and bought a cheap voice recorder. Then I went to the stationery store and bought a ledger. If Mark wanted to play games with numbers, he picked the wrong opponent. I spent decades organizing catalogs. I know how to keep a record. For the next 2 weeks, I played the part. When Mark visited, bringing cheap canned soup and expired bread, I thanked him. I recorded every conversation. "Sarah sends her love," he would say, checking his expensive watch. "She wishes she could send more, but money is tight in New York." I recorded that too, I wrote down the dates, the times, and the lies. Then I called Sarah. "Honey," I said, keeping my voice light, "I'm planning a special dinner for your anniversary next week. Why don't you fly in? Just for the weekend. Don't tell Mark. Let it be a surprise." She agreed, sounding exhausted but happy. The day of the dinner, I spent my last $20 on ingredients for a pot roast, Sarah's favorite. The apartment smelled like rosemary and home. When Mark arrived, he looked annoyed to see the table set for 3. "Who's coming, Eleanor?" he asked, irritation leaking through his polite facade. "You know I have a business meeting tonight." "Just sit, Mark," I said, pouring him water. "We need to talk about the account." He laughed, a dry, nervous sound. "The account? Eleanor, we've been over this. You're confused again." "Am I?" I pulled the bank statements from under my placemat. I slammed the ledger down next to it. November 3rd, withdrawal, $2,000 at the Golden Chip Casino. October 15th, purchase. $1,500, men's designer suits. September 1st, transfer, $3,000 to a private account. Mark stood up, his face turning an ugly shade of red. "Where did you get these? You have no right to snoop through my personal finances." "Your finances?" I stood up too. I wasn't small anymore. I was a mother, protecting her child. "That is Sarah's money, sent for me. You let me freeze last winter, Mark. You let me go hungry while you played poker and bought silk ties." "You're crazy," he spat, stepping closer, trying to intimidate me. "Sarah won't believe a senile old bat over her husband. I handle the finances. I take care of you." "Is that what you call this?" A voice came from the hallway. Mark spun around. Sarah was standing there, her suitcase dropped on the floor, her face pale and streaked with tears. She had been listening from the bedroom for 10 minutes. I had left the door open. "Sarah," Mark stammered, his charm evaporating instantly. "Baby, she's confusing things. I was investing it. For us, for her future." Sarah walked into the room. She didn't look at him. She looked at me. She saw the thinness of my wrists, the frayed collar of my sweater, the sparse furniture. The realization hit her like a physical blow. She walked over to the table and picked up the ledger. She read the entries in my handwriting. The days I noted eating only toast. The days the heat was cut off. "You told me she was doing great," Sarah whispered, her voice shaking. "You told me the money was for a nurse, for organic food, for a heater." She looked up at him, and the love in her eyes was gone, replaced by a terrifying coldness. "I worked double shifts. I missed holidays because I thought I had to work harder to support her. And you were gambling it away?" "It was a loan," Mark yelled, desperate now. "I was going to pay it back. I just had some bad luck." "Get out," Sarah said. It wasn't a scream. It was a final verdict. "Sarah, please, get out," she screamed, throwing the ledger at his chest. "Get out of my mother's house before I call the police and have you arrested for elder abuse and fraud. And trust me, Mark, I have the best lawyers in New York. You won't just lose me. You'll lose everything." Mark looked at us, the united front of mother and daughter, and he ran. He actually ran out the door, leaving his coat behind. That night, Sarah cried in my lap like she was a little girl again. She apologized over and over, blaming herself for not seeing it, for being too busy. I stroked her hair and told her the truth. Betrayal is quiet, my love. It walks on soft feet and wears a smiling face. You didn't know because you have a good heart. He used your goodness against you. We didn't just let it go. Sarah followed through. She filed for divorce, and sued Mark for every penny he had stolen. It turned out he had done this before, to another family. We weren't just victims. We became the reason he finally went to jail. Now, 6 months later, things are different. Sarah moved me to a nice condo closer to her job in New York. I have a garden now. I have enough food. But the most important thing isn't the comfort. It's the bond we forged in that fire. I learned that I am not invisible, and I am not helpless. I am a mother, and a mother's love is the one thing you never, ever steal from. If you are listening to this, and you feel like something isn't right in your own life, trust that instinct. Don't let anyone make you feel small or crazy. The truth is your armor. Wear it